Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Guys Who Stare at Stats. Cade Kennedy alongside Andrew Santangelo. And Andrew, we're in week 5 of the college football season. As you can see on the schedule here, another full fun slate of games starting tonight as we're recording this. We got Temple taking on Tulsa. We got Middle Tennessee, Western Kentucky. Fun rivalry game that not a lot of people talk about. But we're here to talk about some of those other games. So as always, if you want to follow us along for the fun journey of the college football season, feel free to like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below. Do you agree with us, disagree with us, think we have no idea what we're talking about when it comes to these games? Who knows? But we've got to start with the number one team in the country, the Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia riding at 4-0. They go to 3-1 Auburn. Big rivalry game there. It's the 2:30 CBS game. As always, the last year we get that SEC CBS 2:30 slot. Georgia, 14-point favorites in this one. It's kind of been interesting seeing both coaches talk this week, kind of not downplaying the rivalry, but downplaying the hatred side of it, talking about more of a game of love and not hatred. For a rivalry, the Georgia and Auburn, two teams that don't like each other, it's kind of intriguing to listen to.
Yeah, I think they're trying to just focus more on the game, obviously from the fan standpoint and the media standpoint. We're all going to try to talk up the rivalry and make it a big deal, but I think coaches, obviously, they've been there before. They're used to rivalry games at this point with how long they've both been in the game of college football. So I think they're just trying to focus more on the actual ins and outs of the games and the two teams. And obviously, Auburn looking to pull off the big upset here. But overall, I think in the end, Georgia's going to go out and do their thing. They're going to take care of business. I think they win the game. I think they'll cover the spread. I think they're just too good offensively and defensively.
That's where I'm at. Georgia's a great team. Auburn had their first real big test against Texas A&M last week. They only gave up 27, but the problem was they didn't really get anything going offensively. Texas A&M able to win that one. I think when you play a team like Georgia, you have to play your A game. I think Auburn can bring it, but it still won't be enough to beat Georgia. They're number one for a reason. But the next one here, Michigan and Nebraska. This one was it was a game last year when they met, Michigan, Nebraska. 2 years ago, of course, we had another one-possession Nebraska game at home. Huskers hoping to bring a little bit of that again. You look at the over and under, Andrew, it's 39. That's where they're expecting this to be a defensive game. But Michigan's still 17-point favorites in this one. Wolverines favored by Vegas to win big. We'll see what happens.
The over-under's 39, so it's a true Big Ten game this weekend.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, Michigan, I think they're clicking everything at the right time. I think they do win big. I think that 17 is probably a good spot. Nebraska obviously has played teams close in the past the last couple of years. Some pretty good games that Nebraska we've seen. Obviously, a lot of expectations that they should be turning the corner here, bringing in a new coach in the offseason. So I think hopefully for them you kind of start to see some positive signs. I just think Michigan's a little bit too much for that just yet. And I think more of the expectation spots will develop by the end of the season but too early for me for Nebraska, so I'm going to go with Michigan.
I'm intrigued to see how Nebraska looks. Obviously, they've switched quarterbacks already, got rid of Jeff Sims. Kind of trying a bit more of a new option offense, something Nebraska fans are obviously used to with what they used to do back in the day. But I don't think it'll be enough for them to overcome everything getting thrown at them, having to play Michigan. I think the Wolverines able to take care of business in this one. And that brings us to one of the big top 25 matchups of the day. If you would have said a few years ago this was a big top 25 matchup, I don't think anyone would have believed you. But that's credit to what Lance Leipold and the Kansas Jayhawks have done. Kansas is ranked again at 24. Unfortunately for Kansas, this is probably the most complete Texas team since 2009. Longhorns, what can you say about them? They're 4-0. They're number 3 in the country. It's all good for them, I guess is the best way to put it. Texas has done everything they're supposed to. Even when they've looked bad, they still found a way to beat Wyoming by 21. They had their demolition of Baylor last week. And Texas, 16.5-point favorites in this one over an explosive Kansas offense.
Yeah, I think this is actually a pretty good game. I don't think it's going to get to the 16. Maybe it is at some point in the game. I think when the final score hits, Texas will win, but I think Kansas is able to keep it much closer than that 16.5, 17-point game. So I think I like where Kansas is going. Obviously, we all say they're much improved. I think they're close. I don't think they're there yet to pull off this this upset, like you said, Cade, Texas, very complete this year. But I think Kansas keeps it interesting throughout the game, and by the end, Texas is able to survive and hold on with the home win.
I think so. This is one of those where Kansas is going to give Texas a scare. They have the offense to do it. Jalen Daniels is a fun quarterback to watch. He's going to make some plays here and there. But at the end of the day, Kansas, I don't think they have the athletes to line up with Texas. I think Texas, when it comes down to it, we'll start to see that depth and everything they need kick in late in the game. Kansas will give them a scare for a good half, but Texas pulls away and wins in the second half. I think they might get to that 17 once we get to the end of the game, but it'll take a long way to get there.
Just give us a good game for most of it. That's all we ask.
That's all we ask, is a good, fun game. The next one, Penn State taking on Northwestern. The Wildcats had one of the sleeper wins of the year that I think a lot of people aren't going to talk about, down 31-10 to Minnesota. Northwestern comes back to get an overtime win over the Golden Gophers. Penn State, they're coming off a fun win. Anytime you can beat Iowa 31-0 and hold a team to 76 yards of offense, you're going to feel pretty confident going into the next one. James Franklin, he wanted to switch practice up a little bit to get them used to the atmosphere of Northwestern. No music played this week, so a little bit interesting to see how they're doing that there. Penn State, I don't really think they need to get that accustomed to Ryan Field. They're 26.5-point favorites. I don't think music or not will make a difference in this one.
Yeah, I'll give Penn State credit, and I get it. They haven't played the big teams, Ohio State and Michigan, yet, but they're playing a lot better than I thought they would. Like, I mean, obviously they're a good team coming into the year, but it's the way they're playing everyone. Like, they're blowing teams out left and right. Like, they're just making sure it's not close. And, like, I mean, obviously we know Iowa's offense isn't the best, but to go out and put 31 on that Iowa defense is impressive, and then to hold them to 0 is impressive. And, I mean, you look at both their Big Ten wins are by double digits, and I think you just continue to see that this weekend. They're just another very complete team in college football. Again, obviously, we can't wait for the Michigan and Ohio State game that will happen in a few weeks. But no, yeah, this Penn State team, I don't know, 6.5 is always just a big number. So I don't know if they cover that, but I think Penn State definitely goes out and gets the job done.
They've got a pretty good chance to cover it, I feel like. Northwestern's not the greatest team in the world, but I think they'll have a little bit of momentum coming off what they did last week. But momentum can only carry you so far. I think after about the first few drives of the game, Penn State just completely takes over, and I think they roll in this one. But the next one we've got the Pac-12 After Dark slot, 9 o'clock Central Time. Here will be 7 o'clock out in the West Coast. But Washington, they've been fun this year. Michael Penix Jr. picking up exactly where he left off from last year. Arizona, they have that ability to play well at home. They have that weird desert voodoo to them that some people refer to, but Vegas isn't buying it. Washington's 20-point favorites in this one.
Well, it's after dark, so it's when the upset happens, right? It's
usually
crazy. But no, I think Washington goes out and gets the win. I think that even in the road game, I think they're able to take care of business. They look pretty good. They always have a solid defense. I think that continues here in this game.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot. I think Arizona will put up a good fight for a while, but Washington, their defense has improved. Their offense is still the same as it was last year. When you take a great offense and put it with even just an average to above average defense, you're going to get good results. That's what Washington's going to do here. But one of the games I think everyone's looking forward to, it's the big noon game, USC playing Colorado. How does Colorado bounce back from last week? Vegas has got the over-under set for this at 73.5, and USC 21.5-point favorite. So they're expecting a lot of points. When you get Caleb Williams and that high-powered offense USC has, Colorado's got a pretty good offense as well. Travis Hunter, I don't think he'll play in this one. I know he said he wants to, but I don't think he can at this point. But it should be high-powered. You expect with these two get together this year, we're going to get a lot of points.
You'd expect a lot of points, but I think we kind of thought the same thing last week too. I mean, I get it. Oregon's probably got a little bit better defense than USC, but I think we all thought that one would get a little bit out there. I think, I don't know if it's going to be the degree of a 36-point difference, but I think USC is going to pull away from this game. I think Colorado missing Hunter is still going to be too big of a loss for them in a game like this. And I think Caleb Williams goes out and gets the job done. And I think you see it. I think USC is able to put up 40, 50 points in this game.
This might be one of those where USC can get to 40 in the first half.
Yeah.
Colorado's defense has looked terrible so far. Didn't help last week. Bo Nix nearly has a perfect first half. I think he had one or two incompletions. You give a Heisman Trophy winner that much time, it's going to be bad.
Just force one or two turnovers.
Yeah, that's about all you could do if you're Colorado. And they'll make their big plays here and there, but I think USC wins in a shootout. But speaking of Oregon, we talked about them. They're playing at 5:30, one of those odd West Coast times. That's what happens when you're on the Pac-12 network. But the Ducks travel off to the farm playing Stanford. Oregon 27-point favorites in this one. This might be blowout of the week contender, Andrew.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think, especially out of the ones we're talking about. I think it's the blowout of the week. I think Stanford continues to struggle. Who knows where they're at this point? They're trying to figure everything out left and right. But Oregon goes out, take care of business, start to finish. Yes,
Stanford's just trying to put pieces together. I mean, you lose to Sacramento State 2 weeks ago. Everything is just going to go downhill this season. It's a rebuilding year, but it feels like it's somehow even more than that for Stanford. Oregon just needs to kind of show up to win this game. I think they do that and more. Dan Lanning's not going to let the Ducks sleepwalk into anywhere. I think Oregon gets the job done pretty handily. But the next one, a Friday night game on FS1, Utah and Oregon State. The Beavers had a little bit of trouble on the Palouse last week, losing to Wazoo. Utah shows that you don't really need an offense when you've got good defense and special teams. They were able to beat UCLA 14-7, including getting a pick six early on in the game. Utah's pretty good about getting those pick sixes. But Oregon State, favored by 4.5 at home. Corvallis is a tough place to play. We'll see what Utah does when they meet the Beavers of Oregon State.
Yeah, this one will be one of the fun games of the week. This could be an underrated matchup just because of the Pac-12. Everyone's kind of sleeping on it this year with obviously the turnover they're having over there. But I think Johnson, he takes care of the ball well. Like you said, Cade, they have a defense that continues to carry him. So as long as Johnson's able to continue to take care of the ball without interception so far this year, and they're able to kind of control the clock, I think Utah goes on the road and gets the job done. I think they've failed to come up with some of those big wins in past years, but I think that defense is able to really start this game strong, get them some opportunities, and Johnson does the job.
This is one of those weird games where I feel like it could go either way. On one hand, I think these are both teams that are built kind of the same way. They rely on their great defenses, and they can run the ball well. They both have quarterbacks that are capable of making the big play when they need to, but they don't necessarily have to rely on it. But if you're giving me a battle of who I trust right now, I'm still going to trust Utah more, just mainly off coaching of Coach Whittingham and what Utah has already established. I think they go into Corvallis with a close one. It'll be a good defensive battle, but I think Utah finds a way to get the job done. From Friday night's games to Saturday night games, Saturday night football, hey, for the first time, we don't get Fowler and Herbstreit. We get Reese Davis and Herbstreit this week. So another kind of fun announcer switcheroo for Saturday Night Football on ABC. But Notre Dame, hopefully they'll have all 11 players on the field for every snap in this one. They lost to Ohio State in a brutal fashion. They've got to play Duke, and Mike Elko's squad, they're not going to be backing down from anything. They have been ready for every game this year. That's a reason why they're 4-0. I mean, Duke beats Clemson 28-7. I mean, my goodness, when's the last time we could see stuff like that happen? But Notre Dame, still 5.5-point favorites in this one. Kind of be interesting to see who gets up first for this one. Notre Dame, you have the bounce back from the rough loss. If you're Duke, it's another big home game for them.
Yeah, I think Duke jumps out strong in this game. I think they come out with the first score, if not the first two scores, and then Notre Dame comes back and win. I think after what happened last week, that's such a just a big deflating loss, and I think you'll kind of see a little bit of a slow start, especially when you play a team like that. You kind of see it sometimes. You're a little, not, I don't want to say banged up, but just from going up against toe-to-toe with a team like that, you got some wear and tear, and it takes a little bit to get into it. So I think this is one that Duke team at home will kind of jump out to that lead and then start to fall off as the game goes through. So I'm going to take Notre Dame on the road.
So this is one of those, I agree with you. I think Duke comes out and jumps up, gets up maybe, 14-0, 10-0, something like that. But with the way Duke's defense has been playing, I don't know if Notre Dame can allow themselves to get in a two-possession hole early. I think they have the offense to come back if they need to, but Duke's defense, the way they've been playing, I still think Notre Dame wins. I think they're able to bounce back a little bit earlier than 2 possessions. But it's going to be a battle. It's going to be a physical, hard-fought game. I think Notre Dame just finds a way to hold on. But we go from two teams relying on defense to 2 teams that they can put points on the board, but having some trouble this year doing that. Alabama and Mississippi State. It's a rivalry. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Both teams will gladly tell you. It's one of the longest-running series in the SEC. Alabama going to Starkville again. Alabama 14.5-point favorites in this one, coming off the big win over Ole Miss.
Yeah, obviously Alabama's still trying to figure out a lot, especially on the offensive side, figuring out the quarterback situation. We've seen in the past few games. Can they get the job done against Mississippi State? Obviously, and I think they start to click. I think this Alabama team's a different team when you get to conference play. I think Saban's got them going. I think he obviously has figured some things out, and he doesn't waste any time at conference. I think Alabama wins and goes 2-0 in SEC.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I think Alabama, they've kind of had their one game of mistakes. They've kind of figured things out going back to Milrose, the starters going to work. Well, yes, there's still going to be mistakes. Yes, the offense isn't going to be perfect or great as we've seen in previous years under them, but they'll do enough to get the job done here. Even though it's a rowdy environment, it's hard to play with those cowbells sometimes, but I think Alabama does enough to get the win here. But the next one, the Magnolia Bowl. LSU goes to Oxford for what should be a fun one. Anytime you get a top 20 matchup in the SEC, always going to be a fun game, or at the very least, you hope so. But LSU only 2.5-point favorites when the Bayou Bengals take on the Rebs.
It's interesting here. You get the matchup predictor going with Ole Miss. You get the line going with LSU. So where do we go?
Yeah, it's like, who do you trust more?
I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I think this can get onto a level of back and forth, just scoring left and right, scoring. And in the end, I think Ole Miss is the team there. I think they're a team. They're going to get that last possession in whether it's a tie game or like a 3-4 point game. And I think Ole Miss at home is able to finish off that last drive, get the job done, still win against LSU. I think they're pretty close to an even matchup. I like where both these teams are. And I think LSU, that first game's still in my head at least a little bit. And I think Ole Miss is able to take advantage of some of those things that you saw get exposed.
This is one of those that's tough for me because it's a battle of who do you trust more. Do you trust a Brian Kelly team more, or do you trust a Lane Kiffin team more? And that's a hard decision to make here between both of them. I think Ole Miss will show some bounce back from last week. Alabama's just one of those games they always seem to struggle in. It's one of those, I don't know if it's a mental thing for Kiffin having to go up against Saban or what. I think Ole Miss comes back home. They'll play a lot better, but I just do not trust their defense. I think LSU's just a little bit better than Ole Miss overall. I think the Tigers are able to come in and get a win. But the next one, Iowa State and Oklahoma back in Norman. Sooners 20-point favorites in this one. Iowa State, though, they showed they can put up points last week. They dropped 34. They switched things up a little bit, throwing the ball more than they usually have. Oklahoma had one of the games of all time, I guess you could say. 20-6, they beat Cincinnati. The OU defense has been playing well, kind of more of a focal point than the offense, which is still weird to say as an OU fan.
Yeah, Iowa State put up 34 on Oklahoma State, so I don't know how much you want to take that.
Hey, it's more than 7 against Ohio.
No, in all seriousness, though, I think Oklahoma, that defense has really turned it around from what we've seen in the past, from where we first started the show. That Oklahoma defense is very much improved. I think the mix of that and the offense for OU is just way too much for Iowa State, especially in Norman. I think maybe, if you're going to Ames, we always joke about the curse that somehow, they always pull off the upsets up there and everything. But I don't think Iowa State's able to get the job done against Oklahoma this weekend.
I don't think they are either. I think OU, even if the offense struggles, which I think they'll have their struggles, Iowa State is a good, solid defensive team. I think OU's defense is just too much for Iowa State. No matter what Iowa State tries to do, they'll have their moments here and there, of course. But I think this is one of those statement games for OU where, hey, come in, hold another team under 14. Let's see what we can do. Kind of show people that this isn't just a fluke. This isn't just a few one-off games. We're the real deal going into Red River. But the Next one, South Carolina and Tennessee. Last year, this one was a bit odd, to say the least. South Carolina able to drop a lot of points on the Vols in Columbia. This year, though, the Gamecocks go back to Neyland, and Tennessee, 12-point favorites in this one.
Yeah, I like this quarterback matchup here in this game. I think it's going to create for a fun game that similar to Ole Miss LSU, to be honest. I think you can get a lot of back and forth scoring left and right. I think these two teams will go at each other from start to finish, keep it close. I don't think you'll see either team really pull away. I think South Carolina, I don't know. There's just something, and I get it, he just never lived up the hype. But Rattler, there's something in my head. He's still going to find a way one of these times to just get that ginormous win. And I know Tennessee isn't that big, but falling to 21 from where they were at the start of the year. But I think in the end, Tennessee is just going to be too much. I think Milton's going to be able to get the job done there for Tennessee and get the win.
This is one that, looking at the spread here, I think that's way too high for Tennessee. Yeah. South Carolina is one of those teams that we've seen what they can do under Shane Beamer. Spencer Rattler played about as well as you could against Georgia that first half. South Carolina had an 11-point lead at halftime, but he doesn't have an offensive line. I don't know what you expect an offense to do when they have no one blocking for anybody. Tennessee will take advantage of that eventually. I think the Vols get the win at home. This is a big win for Tennessee because, man, you want to get revenge for what happened last year when you get your playoff hopes just thrown out the window in Columbia. I think Tennessee fans, they want revenge for last year. They're going to get it. But the next one, speaking of teams that always kind of seem to, the last decade, have had some classics here, sometimes for the right reasons, sometimes for the wrong reasons, depending on which fan base you're talking to. It's Florida and Kentucky. Gators are still ranked. Kentucky's 4-0. Kentucky at home, favored by 1 over Florida. This is going to be one of those kind of sleeper games. It's at 11 a.m. I think a lot of people aren't talking about this one. This one should be pretty entertaining, Andrew.
Yeah, that was a sleeper game. I think you'll get that kind of game here, too, where it's kind of slow, sluggish a little bit. Not just because of the early time. I just think that's kind of where these two teams are at. I think they kind of are going to try to win the game on the defensive side of the ball. I think it's where it's going to really control it is the defenses, and I think in the end the Gators are able to find a way to get the job done on the road.
See, this is one of those where Kentucky at home, that kind of 11 a.m. game, I think that helps them a lot. This is one of those environments where Florida has to come in and they have to be ready from the jump. And knowing just how Florida is, this isn't a Billy Napier thing. This is a Florida issue that goes back, beyond Mullen, back to McElwain, however back you want to go for Florida. It's the ability to get up for the small games. You've got to find a way to get there for these. Florida has that ability to get up for big games. We all know that. Everyone has seen Florida do that at least once or twice with a team that you don't know what to expect, and boom, they show up and they're blowing somebody out like Tennessee a few weeks ago. I think Kentucky finds a way to get it done here. I trust Kentucky a little bit more than I do Florida. Yes, you can look at Devin Leary. Yes, he's already thrown 5 picks in 4 games. Does that look pretty? Absolutely not. It looks ugly. But I think Kentucky at home, with what Coach Stoops has been able to build there, these are the type of games they come out and play well in. And even though they're favored, still doesn't really feel like, doesn't feel like it would be that big to say, oh, Kentucky won. They upset Florida. It doesn't matter that they're favored. They're playing a ranked team. It's an upset in my book. I think Kentucky gets the job done. But the next one, Mizzou and Vandy. Missouri, another team kind of flying under the radar. They woke some people up by beating K-State a little bit ago. But Mizzou, 4-0. They go to Vandy this week. Every SEC fan base's favorite trip. You get to go to Nashville for a weekend. You get to watch your team usually win. But Vandy's 2-2. They're no slouch, Andrew, but Tigers 13.5-point favorites.
I think the Tigers have come out of nowhere. I didn't expect them to get off to this nice start. If you would have told me back in week 1 Missouri was going to be ranked in week 5, I would not probably have believed you. But yeah, I think they continue. Like you said, Vandy's a spot people go and find ways to win in Nashville. And I think that continues. I just think Missouri's clicking on all cylinders right now with this team, and they're able to go get the job done. Get the job done, go to 5-0.
Yeah, I mean, that's really all you can do for Missouri. Come in, get the job done, leave, be 5-0. I think that's exactly what Missouri does. They've been impressive this year so far, no matter where they've played, no matter who they've played. Missouri's found ways to, even though they look shaky at times, they've been able to hold on every game. At the end of the day, a win's a win.
Exactly.
And then the final game, the late night game, Mountain Weird, if you want to call it. That's what at least the term I like to use. Fresno's 4-0. They're in the top 25. They're having fun. They blew out Kent State. They beat Arizona State. They shut out Arizona State, by the way, 29-0 a few weeks ago. This is a Fresno team. They're having a lot of fun. They're 24.5-point favorites against, well, let me just be blunt, a not very good Nevada team. They're 0-4. That's about all I can say about the Wolfpack. They're not very good. Fresno is pretty good.
This could be the blowout of the week.
It very well could. Vegas doesn't seem to agree, but you look at that spread down there. Oregon was 3 more higher. So.
Yeah, it's true. But, hey, I think Fresno State gets the job done. Bulldogs take care of business from start to finish. The offense is way too much for the Wolfpack, and you'll see that early in the game.
Yeah, so Fresno rolls in this one. It should be a fun night up there in the Central Valley for the Bulldogs. But, hey, folks, as always, look at the schedule. Should be a fun week of games. Like I said earlier, feel free to like the video, subscribe to the channel, all those fun things. And until next time, oh, wait, Andrew, you got something here?
Yeah, real quick, we're on the college football topic, obviously. Just came out, according to The Athletic, Mel Tucker, after being fired, is now planning on suing Michigan State.
There we go. So there you go. Got some news there with the Mel Tucker stuff. We'll see what in the world goes on there. But, folks, as always, like I said a few moments ago, feel free to like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below, all those good things. And until next time, have a good one, everybody.